I'll just point out the irony in Democrats holding the government and the American public hostage over a healthcare system that they created. The healthcare system was called Obamacare. Why? Because Democrats and President Obama implemented. And Republicans have always said it's a broken system, yes, but they caused it, and now they want to shut down the government to fix it.
Do you support Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
I guess the Affordable Care Act.
And why do you prefer the Affordable Care Act over Obamacare?
I'm not really sure. My girlfriend supports Trump, so I go with whatever she says.
Your insurance just tripled, and you voted for it. Here's the sick joke. Millions of Americans are screaming destroy Obamacare while literally surviving on Obamacare. They just don't know it. Because in Kentucky, it's called Kinect. In California, Covered California. In Maryland, Maryland Health Connection. Same program, different name. And people are too busy hating the name to realize they're about to lose their coverage. November 1st, subsidies expire. Premiums skyrocket. A 60-year-old couple in Nevada, their insurance jumps $18,000 a year. In Kentucky, $23,700 more. Not because the system broke, because politicians won't extend a subsidy that's already funded. And the states getting hit hardest? The ones voting to end it. This isn't politics. This is economic suicide with a smile. Welcome to Mind Mirror. Let's watch it burn.
This is just a quick challenge for people out there, especially if you have like family or friends that are MAGA and don't understand these things. Google, what is the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare called in my state? Because it's called something different everywhere, which I don't know if people understand this. Federally, that's what it's called, the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans started calling it Obamacare so that it had a negative connotation to it. However, every state, they have their own name nomenclature for it, essentially. Like for me, I'm in Maryland, and in Maryland, it's called Maryland Health Connection. So if you have healthcare through Maryland Health Connection, you technically have the Affordable Care Act, which is also known as Obamacare. Or let's make this easy. Google your state. Drop it in the comments. Let's see if we can get all 50. And then like, share, and comment this so it can get all over, so people can understand where they're at.
This is by no means the first hostage taking that the Democrats have done. Democrats are now coming out and blatantly saying the American people are just leverage in this.
The American people are just leverage. Finally, someone said the quiet part out loud. You're not a person in this fight. You're a bargaining chip, a political hostage. One side wants to extend subsidies so 20 million keep coverage. The other wants them gone. And the punchline? The states screaming loudest to eliminate these subsidies are the ones using them most. It's economic self-destruction. People voting to burn their own safety net, then acting shocked when they can't afford the hospital.
Know damn well that the Republicans would likely vote for the subsidy extension, but that's not really what they want. Obamacare is the hot mess that everyone said it would become, and now we have to subsidize it. They just really want control and a whole lot of money to do a whole lot of their bullshit. Republicans are trying not to break the filibuster, but guarantee you the Democrats, as soon as they get back in power, they will break that filibuster in a New York minute.
We are less than 4 days away from open enrollment, where you can pick out your health insurance plan on healthcare.gov, and a lot of Americans are going to see their health insurance premiums double, if not triple. The government's still shut down, so this could change if legislation changes, but per CMS, on November 1st, if you are making over $85,000 a year as a family of two, you no longer qualify for a premium tax credit. This means a lot of couples in their 60s, their cheapest option for health insurance is going to be $20,000 a year or more. It's literally almost 25% of your income going to just health insurance premiums, not your deductible, not any medical bills, just the premiums. It's actually crazy. If your rates are doubling or tripling, let me know in the comments below if you want me to talk about options outside of healthcare.gov and outside of Obamacare plans. And if you want help picking out a plan this open enrollment, go to the top of my page. I have a free health insurance training where you can request a custom quote.
Everyone did not get screwed with Obamacare, Affordable Care Act in other words. In fact, it goes by your income, meaning that if you had a small business dream, you could start it no matter how much money you made. And in fact, the people I've seen who complained about it usually were in the higher income brackets because, of course, it also protected those with pre-existing conditions from being discriminated against. That means that those people didn't have to die. They actually could get health care, no matter what their pre-existing condition. Saved countless American lives. And as mentioned, it allowed anyone to have the freedom to start the small business of their dreams because Affordable Care Act ensured that you would only pay based on the income you made. So in that way, it actually added a tons of independence and freedom to Americans. Now, those who are complaining usually are those who had no pre-existing condition and also made a much higher income bracket than the average person. My take is the end of Obamacare, tax credit subsidies, is also the end of many Americans' independence. Because if you can't afford health care, you become more dependent on corporate jobs.
You know, back in 2000, you could have your whole family insured for $6,000 a year. Fast forward today, that's $24,000 at minimum. Affordable care, my ass. Now, that's not to say that the healthcare didn't have its problems before. I mean, they could kick you off for anything. And a lot of people didn't have access to it. So I understood the need for some type of new system. Unfortunately, that system was flawed from the get-go. While everybody could get health insurance, they didn't consider the cost of supply and demand. On top of that, they didn't put no cap on how much these people could charge. Like an MRI back in 2000, you can get for $200. Today, that's just like $4,000. Same machine, same technology, nothing new. Just a different price. So when people ask, what can we do if we get rid of Obamacare? The answer's simple. Go back to what we had, make pre-existing against the fucking law, and cap fucking pricing. Free market is always better than socialism.
Let's talk about this free market fantasy. Before the ACA, insurers dropped you mid-treatment, capped lifetime benefits, charged women more for being women. That MRI, $200 in 2000, $4,000 now. Same machine. Just pure profit. And here's the kicker. Healthcare can't be a free market. You can't shop around during a heart attack. You can't negotiate while unconscious. The solution isn't less regulation. It's smarter regulation, and actually capping these insane prices. Going back to the old system isn't freedom. It's bankruptcy and death, with extra steps.
And if you don't believe me, go ask those people losing their motherfucking food stamps.
Guys, the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are the same thing. They are the exact same thing. There is no policy called Obamacare. It is just a nickname the Republicans gave to Affordable Care Act because they didn't like Obama, and now look. I saw an interview and people were like, oh yeah, I would take the Affordable Care Act, but definitely would never do Obamacare. The gag is the people who are hating on Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, are literally the people who need it most. 9 times out of 10, like the states with the highest rates of uninsured people are Republican states. They're red states. It's not the blue states. So this government shutdown, like, it's about to get spooky. Basic needs should not be a partisan issue. Like, healthcare should not be something blue or red. Like, it's healthcare. Like, people need healthcare to survive.
Healthcare shouldn't be political, but branding made it that way. They called it Obamacare specifically to trigger rejection. Attach a polarizing name, and people oppose it without understanding it. Same people who say, I love the Affordable Care Act but hate Obamacare. It's the same thing. It's like refusing water because someone called it H2O, and that sounds scary. Now representatives tweet, repeal Obamacare, while 100,000 of their constituents depend on it. That's not governance, that's theater. And real people lose coverage so politicians can score social media points.
It is a basic right, you know?
It's been a long day, but I just wanted to make sure y'all saw this. There are about 1 million people in North Carolina who are on the ACA, also known as Obamacare. And the 8th district being what it is, that means there are about 80 to 100,000 people on it. So I shouldn't be surprised, but I was disappointed to see Mark Harris tweet out yesterday, repeal Obamacare, as if ripping healthcare away from 100,000 of his constituents wasn't anything but cruelty disguised as policy. It would also skyrocket premiums for everyone else. I'm Jesse Oppenheim, and I'm a common sense Democrat running for Congress. Thanks very much. And have a great day.
So, if Obamacare worked and made healthcare cheaper, what do we need a subsidy for? Taxpayer money. Oh, and whatever happened to your doctors that dude said you weren't going to lose? Almost as like if it's a scam or something.
Hey gang, taking a break from college football and putting my daughter to bed to chat about healthcare. On November 1st, Affordable Care Act subsidies will expire, which will skyrocket nearly 4.7 million Floridians' healthcare premiums. It will also likely send non-ACA healthcare premiums soaring due to stress on the insurance market. Our district, Florida 21, ranks 17th highest in the nation in terms of the number of ACA enrollees, with about 18% of the district, or nearly 135,000 of our friends, family, and neighbors using the ACA for their healthcare. Have you received a letter or email detailing just how much your healthcare premiums are about to increase? If so, people need to hear your story. You're not a statistic. You're a human being who deserves healthcare that won't bankrupt you.
135,000 people in one district. Real humans. Working families. And on November 1st, their premiums double. Imagine you're 62, too young for Medicare, and your insurance jumps from $500 to $1,500 a month. That's rent. Groceries. Your entire margin gone. For what? Political posturing? This isn't about saving money. The government spends trillions on healthcare already. This is about who gets help. And right now, not the working people who need it. If you're one of those people, your story matters. Share it, because your voice cuts through the political games.
All right, you guys, maybe you could help me out. Maybe some of you can explain this to me like I'm a 4-year-old. Because here's what I know, and here's what I lived through. Okay, so Obamacare was passed with 0 Republican votes. The Obamacare subsidies were passed with 0 Republican votes. The Obamacare COVID emergency subsidies were passed with 0 Republican votes. Help me understand, when 0 Republicans were involved in any facets of Obamacare, help me understand how the expiration of the subsidies passed by Democrats is Republicans' fault. This is the Twilight Zone. It has to be. And truly, I don't know how brainwashed you have to be to believe that this has anything to do with Republicans. You guys created the whole thing, including the expiration dates for the subsidies. And now they're expiring, and you guys are saying that that is Republicans' fault because they're just not bending over and allowing you to continue the ruse. Because that's all Obamacare is. It's a ruse. It's been a ruse. And I think the problem is people are too young and too uninformed to actually know what it was like before Obamacare. And now, way too much time has passed, so you guys refuse to acknowledge the fact that this was a mistake. It made things worse for people. And you're stuck in the double down cycle that we have come to know and love every year. So please tell me how this is Republicans' fault. How? I need to know. Explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old.
Hey, just FYI, like FYI, Obamacare and Medicaid are 2 different programs, because there's kind of a lot of comments where I'm reading them about, I'm talking about Obamacare, I'm talking about the Affordable Care Act, okay? And these comments are kind of leading me to believe that people think that Obamacare is giving people free health insurance. It's not. It's to make it affordable. These are separate entities. Anybody who's using Obamacare, and that would be small business owners and independent freelancers like myself, typically, people who make their own money, is anybody who runs a business out of the house. Anybody who doesn't have an employer who covers their health insurance is probably on Obamacare, or AKA the Affordable Care Act. And anybody who doesn't have a job and who's like dirt ass poor and isn't working is like legitimately at like rock bottom, or like making like, I think the cutoff was $21K a year. Below that is on Medicaid, which is the state sponsored like Medi-Cal and like whatever your state health insurance fucking name is for. Different programs. So everybody on Obamacare is making money, is working, is like trying to achieve that like American dream for themselves. By the way, because yeah, there's a lot of comments that you guys sound like, you guys seem to think that we're getting this for free. This isn't, we have to pay for this. Okay? It's basically like the state or federal government is acting like what our employer would be, covering part of it, kind of. That's how I see it.
Let's be crystal clear. Obamacare is not free healthcare. You still pay premiums, deductibles, co-pays, everything. The subsidy just makes it affordable based on income. Medicaid is different. That's for very low-income people. But the ACA, that's for self-employed people, freelancers, small business owners, people without employer coverage, without subsidies. You're paying $1,000 plus monthly. We subsidize everything. Corporate tax breaks, farm bailouts, oil companies. But healthcare for working families? Suddenly that's handouts. The people on Obamacare are working, paying taxes, contributing. They just need help affording coverage.
Because your employer pays part of your health insurance, right? And then they take a certain amount of money out of your check, typically, depending on what your employer wants to do, however they want to divvy up. I did have one employer once that covered it fully. That was nice. But usually it's 50-50. And that's how I see it. It's usually, so then I'm paying a little bit out of what I make, and then the state's covering the rest. And now what they're trying to do is make me cover the whole amount, which is like a lot, okay. A lot compared to what I don't know.
The like blind hate that these like Republicans have for Obama is actually crazy. They're like, what? I hate Obamacare. I hate Obamacare. That's cool. Great. Awesome. I don't really like Obamacare either. There's a lot of problems there. What's the plan? You can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. People need health insurance. Kind of like not an option for some of us. What is the plan then? So what is the plan? You can't just take it away. You can't just have nothing. You can't just expect people to pay like $700 every month out of nowhere. You have to have a plan. I would be okay with I don't know, either reforming or doing something different than Obamacare. But that is not being proposed. That's not what's even happening right now. They're still going to keep Obamacare. This is not Obamacare going away. This is them just going, hey, we need to save a bunch of money because we gave our rich buddies a bunch of tax breaks, and we're going to cut these subsidies that help the poor people. And then the poor people are still going to pay the same amount of taxes. Like, you don't even get a discount. And by poor, I mean anybody making less than $200K a year. So if you fall into that category, that's you. Have a backup plan. You could hate on Obamacare and say it needs, but have a plan. Have a plan. There's no plan. They have concepts of a plan.
Concepts of a plan, not a plan. Concepts. Vibes. We'll repeal Obamacare. Replace it with what? Something better. Like what? We'll figure it out. That's not policy. That's improv with people's lives. The ACA has problems, high premiums, insane deductibles. It needs reform. But you need a replacement before you tear it down. When people lose coverage, they end up in ERs, which costs more, which raises everyone's costs. Criticize all you want, but bring actual solutions, not trust me it'll be great.
Hey, if I had sent in the National Guard into Texas and just said, you know what, a lot of problems in Dallas. You know, a lot of crime there. And I don't care what Governor Abbott says. I'm going to kind of take over law enforcement because I think things are out of control. It is mind-boggling to me how Fox News would have responded.
Do you think Fox News would have been more or less outraged than when Obama wore this highly offensive tan suit?
Coochie Neck making his rounds, talking all this about how he's finally getting rid of all of the Democratic programs like SNAP, like Obamacare, etc., etc. What the MAGA idiots are ignoring again is most of y'all use that stuff. Who do you think mostly is on SNAP? Most of the SNAP benefits go to white people. Most of the people using the Affordable Care Act are literally Republicans. So while y'all hate Obamacare and love the Affordable Care Act, you dummies don't realize it's the same thing. And another question, what's going to happen when those businesses that are in those lower income areas don't get that SNAP money that they're used to every month?
What if this government shutdown is simply a chess move? Think about it. Every headline says Republicans are refusing to negotiate. But maybe that's the point. Because the longer this drags out, well, the closer those Obamacare subsidies get to expire on their own. No vote, no compromise, just time doing its work. Democrats keep demanding new spending for overseas programs and LGBTQ initiatives that DOJ already cut out. Republicans, they're just waiting. I mean, that's not gridlock, that's quiet leverage. And here's where it flips. If this standoff lasts till year end, those subsidies, they vanish automatically. I mean, no roll call, no headlines about cruelty, just policy fading away while everybody argues about blame. And if that's the play, I mean, it's ruthless. But maybe for once, Washington's silence is the strategy.
Did you know that when the Affordable Care Act was put into place despite its strong legal challenges and some limitations, more than 40 million uninsured or underinsured individuals attained adequate health insurance, reducing the number of uninsured by 70%. Reducing the number of uninsured people by 70%. Just think about that number. Get sick, you feel sickness coming on, you set up an appointment with your primary care provider, but to go see that primary care provider, insurance to cover most of it. Now, 70% of uninsured individuals were able to go see a doctor because they got adequate health care from the Affordable Care Act. Just think about that. Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare go hand in hand. They are the same thing. So when people are like, are you in favor for the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare? They're the same thing. The Affordable Care Act, Obama did that. Republicans wanted to put a slogan on it to get people to to say against it. So what do you put on it? You put on Obamacare. You don't want to be associated with anything from Obama. Well, Obama reduced the number of uninsured individuals by 70%.
I am a recipient of health insurance through the marketplace, which is what the government is fighting about during the government shutdown. In my opinion, people that are employed and receive insurance through their employers do not understand the difference between marketplace insurance, otherwise known as Obamacare, and it's through the Affordable Care Act, and Medicaid, which is free or low-cost health insurance through the government. So let's get into it. Hope this helps somebody. So after I graduated college and I had a job, if I worked for an employer that offered insurance, I always took it, okay? And then eventually I got married, I had a baby, I had insurance, and then I got divorced. And guess what? I just couldn't afford insurance anymore, so I didn't have it. I didn't have it for probably at least 10 years. And luckily, I live in a city where you can go to the doctor and you can pay cash. So that was great. And mysteriously, miraculously, I guess, a health insurance broker called me one random day at like 6 o'clock. This was, 5 years ago. So I would have been 45 years old. And he was so charismatic on the phone, I actually took the time to talk about health insurance with him. And I told him, I don't have the money for health insurance. I'm a single mom. I barely got back on my feet. I just cannot afford it. And he said, well, let's just take a minute and let's run your numbers. So we ran my numbers, which was how much money I make and blah, blah, blah. And long story short, I end up getting health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, the health insurance marketplace, whatever you want to call it. And this was literally a godsend because not long after that, probably a year later, I started having some major health problems. And while this is TMI, every single month I was hemorrhaging down to my ankles, okay? But for the longest time, I just suffered. I would have never gone to the doctor. So I ended up going to the doctor. It's months and months of situations. And then finally I got that handled. And then a few months later, I had a bad mammogram. And so that was extensive research as well. And obviously I got that handled. But then 1 year ago, I had a small stroke and I didn't have the Affordable Care Act. I don't know how I would ever recover from these three things combined, let alone this one hospital stay. The hospital stay alone would have taken me out financially, like it would have just crushed me. I'm not from a family that's helpful. The first thing my family said to me when I got out of the hospital was, how are you going to pay for this? Anyways, I literally just sat down this morning and looked at how much that hospital stay cost me. So every single month, out of my pocket, I pay $800 towards my insurance premium. It's not cheap. It's not free, okay?
This story is everything. $800 monthly premiums, $9,000 hospital stay, thousands more in tests and medications. This person works hard, pays taxes, does everything right. Without the ACA, financial ruin. Or she ignores stroke symptoms and hopes for the best. That's the reality for millions. They're not gaming anything. They just need a safety net. Because life is unpredictable. Strokes, cancer, accidents. The choice shouldn't be between your health and your home. When politicians talk about cutting subsidies, this is who they're cutting. Working people who had emergencies and needed help.
My hospital stay was about $9,000. Because I have Obamacare, it does not mean that my hospital stay was free. Obamacare did not cover all of that. It still cost me thousands of dollars for that one hospital stay. After I got out of the hospital, I had to pay out of pocket for my MRIs. I had one of my brain, one of my kidneys. I had several ultrasounds because they couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with me. And I had a zillion different doctor's visits, tons and tons and tons of lab work. And I am on 3 medications now, probably for the rest of my life. I am not overweight. I do not smoke. I hardly drink. Like, I'm all the things. I exercise. I eat healthy. But without the affordable healthcare option, I don't think I would have had any sort of financial backup for any of that stuff. So with all that being said, I pay $800 a month towards my premium. My deductible just for me is $6,000. Through all of the healthcare situations I've been through in the last year, do you know how much went towards my deductible? $97. You would think that because I was in the hospital that I, met my deductible, but I didn't. So for those of you out there that think people that get Obamacare, get health insurance through the marketplace, have Obamacare, did I already say that? Affordable Care Act, those are all the same thing, but they are different than free insurance that people are getting through the government. Single moms need safety nets. So this is why our government is in a shutdown, because the Democrats do not want this situation to end for people that need help. I work really hard to the point where I'm physically impaired, okay? I'm not a loser. There's a million women that need help financially with their health insurance. There's a million men that do too. So this will, if it's getting taken away because of the government shutdown and Republicans cannot negotiate on this will affect you in the emergency room. You, the person that has health insurance through your employer. I don't think that everybody realizes that this is going to cost everybody more money, because I am one of those people that probably won't have health insurance again because I just can't afford, $1,000, $1,500 out of my pocket every single month. And I work really hard every single day. So I hope this brings some sort of clarity to people that are on board with canceling all of these government programs.
The government shutdown continues, and the main sticking point appears to be Obamacare. So I have spent the morning trying to educate myself about what's going on with Obamacare and the shutdown. This is what I've discovered. Obamacare was enacted back in 2010, and it was originally intended to provide some measure of health insurance for people at 400% of the federal poverty level and lower. It is funded by a basic tax credit, and that tax credit is permanent, meaning that Congress doesn't have to reauthorize it on a routine basis. Then, in 2021, Congress approved something called the enhanced tax credit. And what this tax credit did was it greatly expanded the number of people who can participate in Obamacare, people who make more money, and it lowered premiums. The enhanced tax credit does have to be reauthorized by Congress on a routine basis. And that's the sticking point. The Republicans don't want to reauthorize the enhanced tax credit. In fact, in their latest budget, they don't have any money for the enhanced tax credit. The Democrats are saying, well, now hold on. Since we enacted this back in 2021, a lot more people have joined Obamacare. In fact, about 45 million Americans now get their health insurance coverage through Obamacare. And if we don't pass this enhanced tax credit, a lot of people are going to suffer. About 22 million will either pay astronomically higher health care premiums, or they could lose their health insurance altogether. Those health care premium increases are pretty eye-watering. For instance, a family of 4 living in Maine with an annual income of $130,000 would have to pay $16,100 more per year for their health insurance than they have been. A 60-year-old couple living in Maryland would have to pay over $13,000 more than what they're paying right now. In Nevada, that same couple would have to pay over $18,000 more than what they're paying now. And in Kentucky, an unbelievable $23,700 more than what they're paying now. And that's where we're at. The Republicans seem hell-bent on getting rid of the enhanced tax credit, and the Democrats seem hell-bent on not having some of you pay an extra $24,000 a year for your health insurance coverage. I will let you decide who the bad guys are, but I think it's pretty obvious.
Let's end with facts. Before ACA, 45 million uninsured. After ACA, that dropped by 20 million. Pre-existing condition denials, now illegal. Lifetime caps, gone. Young adults on parents' plans until 26, that's the ACA. So when people call it a disaster, compared to what? The ACA was supposed to be step 1. Nobody took step 2. Now we're stuck with a half-finished system that's better than before, but nowhere near what we need. Every other developed country figured this out. universal coverage, lower costs, better outcomes. But America, we argue about whether healthcare is a right, while people ration insulin and die.
Obamacare was not a disaster, and I really wish y'all would stop spreading that lie. And it's got to be because either A, you're too young to remember what the financial market and environment looked like back in like 2006, 2008, or you got a very short memory. I entered the workforce back in 2006, the same year I entered college, and the minimum wage was $5.15 an hour. Maybe 1 or 2 years after that, it was $6.55 an hour. At $5.15 an hour, $6.55 an hour, you were not getting insurance through the company. I remember that vividly. That premium was going to at least eat up 1 week of your check, and you only making $200 a week anyway. And you for damn sure wasn't going to get it privately because the premiums are even higher. This is why people back in the day told y'all, get a job with the post office, get a job with the city, get a job with the state, work for the government. Why? Because you may not get rich working for the government, but them benefits are going to make sure you're taken care of. But if you want to know the value of the ACA, you can just look at the benefits they celebrate. Do you know how many people were denied coverage due to pre-existing conditions? Do you understand how many people had the prices of their insurance jacked up just because they got sick? Y'all are harder on this legislation than y'all are on the companies that cause need for legislation. High premiums existed long before the Affordable Care Act. High deductibles existed long before the Affordable Care Act. Medical debt definitely existed long before the Affordable Care Act. In fact, medical debt has always been one of the leading causes of bankruptcy in the United States. The Affordable Care Act was originally meant to be a step toward universal health care. The problem is nobody else has taken another step to actually accomplish the goal of universal health care for citizens of the United States.
Here's the bottom line. Millions are about to lose affordable coverage, not because the system failed, because Congress won't act. Extending subsidies is simple. The support exists, the funding exists, but instead, political theater while real people suffer. If your premiums are skyrocketing, call your representative, share your story, make noise, vote, because this only changes when we demand better. Drop a comment, share this, let people know the truth, hit like, subscribe, and remember, your health isn't a political game, it's your life. Stay sharp.